You know, this video was originally going to be incredibly negative, scathing even. I started writing a script about how many times the developer of this game, Bungie, has burned its own players, and before I knew it, it was 3,000 words deep, and I was only a third of the way done, and I stopped. And I looked at what I wrote, and I didn't see malaise or anger. I just saw passion and concern. It's really easy to forget why you fall in love with a game when you've played it for so long. I have around 900 hours in Destiny 2 alone, and that's not even counting the Destiny 1 hours locked away on my Xbox One's 5400 RPM hard drive. I can't believe they shipped that in 2014. God. Oh, it was 2013. I can't believe they shipped that in 2013. I see people burn out from years of rage, years of burning away in the frankly stupid decisions made by Bungie's C-suite. It's really hard to watch. Watching Datto beg the game to just survive for the summer, for Frontiers, tells us the game has a chance of not making it. We've heard it time and time again, this is make or break, and this time it's different because nobody really cares. It doesn't matter if it's make or break. It's all break now. The question I have for you really is not really what the game has done to make people so upset, but what this game did to incite passion from people that burned so long and even now in its apathy state still stays at room temp. Destiny was always meant to be something, unlike anything else. And for the record, it always has been. It's a kind of looter shooter, but it's got classes like a fantasy RPG and an endgame like World of Warcraft with raids and dungeons. And man, the thought of that even now gets my juices flowing still. It was also a really logical build off of Halo Reach, which was the first game Bungie made that really merged campaign and multiplayer together, which made your character really interesting. It was your character with your story. If you know your history, you know how the story goes. September 9th, 2014, the game releases, and hype is everywhere. It becomes the biggest new media franchise of the decade, I think. Should probably check that. The hype fades to anger, to confusion, to bargaining. The story makes no sense and goes nowhere. The patrol zones are empty and devoid of personality. The endgame grind makes no sense for World of Warcraft vets or Halo vets. The game should have died. Honestly, it was supposed to die, but there was something in there that kept people interested. It wasn't bargaining, like people who thought that the game's expansions would fix it. Calling The Dark Below and House of Wolves expansions is incredibly generous, but an honest, genuine excitement for the potential of the game. At this point, we hadn't had many games release unfinished and get updated over time. Obviously, we're sick of it now, but 10 years ago, this was a novelty. Those of us who stuck around decided we were going to hurry up and wait. Because after all, no one knew what to do. This was new. This is a hard spot to be in if you're Bungie. Halo players don't understand a progression grind. MMO players don't understand shooting mechanics. And also Activision expects you to be making money hand over fist every quarter. We got The Taken King, which was a huge step towards realizing what Destiny could do, could be, and sold enough of us that the promise wasn't impossible. In fact, it might have been inevitable. Promises are hard to keep. It's really hard to separate what you want a game to be and what a game is in your head. I have trouble all the time trying to stop myself from writing off ideas because I myself couldn't meet the game at its own level. Destiny never became the game that I saw in my head, but sometimes it seems like it could. Every time we got Curse of Osiris levels of bad, we would then get followed up with a Forsaken level of good. The studio knew it could make something special. It just had to be allowed to. We all saw it, and they saw it. Then Bungie went independent, which most people assumed at the time was a really good move. Activision had to have been the problem, and if you know anything about how Activision works, I really can't blame anybody for thinking that. If you haven't read Play Nice by Jason Schreier, it's a fair assumption. Shadowkeep released with less content than we'd ever gotten before, as well as a recycled location. Then after that, we got Beyond Light and the Destiny Content Vault, the single worst decision in the franchise history. Now, instead of a game that was building upon itself over years and years of progression with all this content for free players and all this really cool gear and content, it was the game that removed its own content that players paid for and then would sell it back to them sometimes. And unfortunately, perception is reality. And in this case, I don't think that's a wrong perception at all because that is what Destiny does. They've obviously backtracked this by now, but the damage is done. Anytime you bring up the game in an online forum, you'll probably hear one, "Oh, you play Destiny? Cute. Ouch." Or, "Hey, that's the game that deletes its own content." This new chase for disposable content made every season feel less special than the one before it. And not to say that we didn't get special seasons. Season of the Seraph is still in my heart forever. I still wear my Seraph title. to this day because it was bestowed upon me by Rasputin. It seemed like this could at the very least keep the game floating between expansions. The Witch Queen looked cool. Then a few words entered the community.
Over delivery is actually dangerous.
This clip is about as awful as "do you not have phones?" or "you think you want that, but you don't." Being equated to not knowing what you want and thinking that you simply expect patterns of things to get better. There's not a way to explain that. There's no way for any one person to say, oh, well, he didn't really mean it like that, or it wasn't really meant to be taken like that. The statement was, don't over-deliver, you'll create patterns, which ultimately tells everybody we're going to hold back. And at this point, people are understandably angry. Knowing that the developers were held back from making the Destiny that we all knew could exist was baffling at best and rage-inducing at worst. The game continued to adapt this minimal viable content model, and even well-received expansions like the Witch Queen had significantly less additions to the game than previous years. PvP players sometimes went months or even over a year without a new map or any real balance changes. And while the Witch Queen was good, it still lacked any meaningful additions to the world outside of weapon crafting. Glaive users, you're in our hearts. Then all this is happening and we get Lightfall, the infamous expansion that is universally hated across all of the community. Once again, it's really hard to have the game be at what is a universally agreed upon good or even high point like Forsaken or Witch Queen to then get hit with a Shadowkeep or a Lightfall. Makes you feel like a clown. Why am I going over all this? Odds are good if you're this far in the video, you probably know all this. And also, I did say I was trying to be more positive in terms of what I was talking about. Well, and that's because I want to talk about the developers at Bungie are some of the best in the industry. These people know what Destiny can be and worked so hard to bring us the closest thing that they could, even in the face of layoffs and incredibly negative player sentiment. The final shape, by all accounts, righted the course. It should have been a break, but instead it was in fact a make. It was so good, I was even excited to see what was coming next. This Frontiers idea sounds really great, and clearly by now we've proved to the corporate suite, when you work hard and you deliver what players want, there is nothing, they laid off more staff. Like a lot more staff. After the final shape. At this point, the problem's pretty clear. I don't have to point out Pete Parsons' car collection to connect 2 and 2. The C-suite is very clearly getting in its own way. These people are not interested in making anything good or worthy of the incredible promise, incredible world building, and one-of-a-kind talent they have in the studio. They want maximum profit for minimal product, and now the game and community is in tatters because of it. There's really not a lot Bungie can do to recover sentiment at this point. It's even flowing into their new projects such as Frontiers and Marathon. If you've watched this happen with Destiny, why would you invest in Marathon in your right mind? And while Frontiers has some interesting ideas that seem like they're trying to rectify some of the issues we've had for a while in the game, it's just too little too late. And the studio can't just push out another award-winning expansion to get themselves out of this hole. The C-suite pushed too far, made too many wrong moves, even took the blame themselves, then still destroyed the studio. It's really not hard to see what the problem is. And it's not going to change anytime soon. So what do? Let go. The Destiny that could have been, the one that we saw in concept art, in lore entries, the one that we played late into the night, learning raids, soloing dungeons, playing Trials of Osiris with our friends, even if we weren't good at it. The one that taught me how to love build crafting and got me more in touch with RPG elements to the point that I made a video about how I went back and enjoyed Kingdom Hearts 2 in a completely different way because I respect these RPG elements now. That game's not allowed to exist anymore. It's not healthy for us to hold on. And unfortunately for the developers who are still there, a lot of people have realized this. Nothing else is going to scratch that itch. Nothing else is going to play as well. No game is going to make hand cannons like Destiny makes hand cannons. And that's alright. Just stay connected with your friends and move on. In my opinion, the best part about life is memories. Hold on, I'm getting there. Everything else can come and go. You can lose it all. It can all be replaced. But your memories are yours. At the end of any road, it's all you have left. The reason why this video came out the way that it did, rather than me taking a big old dump on the game. It'd be easy. It would be so easy to just go down that route and to just lay into the game and describe all of my problems that I've had over the last 10 years and why it never lived up to that promise, that idea that I had in my brain. But I don't want to do that anymore. When I was 19, back when this game came out, I probably would have done that. But it's been 10 years. I'm different now than I was then. A lot of you probably are too. I don't want the final memories I have of this thing that I spent so long wanting to be better, seeing get better, seeing get worse. I don't want it all to be soured. I want it to stay pure. As pure as it can be, anyways. I don't know what's going to happen with Frontiers or Marathon. I'm not even hopeful. At this point, all I can really do is let go. And I think you should too.